So today is September 6, 2014. We're kind of finishing our run with the Jatakas, but we're going to look at something supplementary and related to them that we've looked at probably not that long ago, but again, I'm going through these things for the final time, and you're helping me very much by being listeners, being present, and allowing me to look through these texts that I've been working on for a while and hopefully mature them as far as I can go with them for now. So this will be our last time through on this one. We will, of course, examine Jatakas, including some brand new ones that none of you have ever heard before in our Jataka session in Vermont. And also, for those who don't get to that session, a couple of those new Jatakas will be done in the Zendo here. And in our weekend non-residential session coming up in a couple of weeks, and the deadline for application for that is this coming Friday, we'll look at Vimalakirti, the great layman of the Buddha's own time. In the Zendo now, from Kofukuji in Japan, on your way out, there's a figure up on the wall over there. That is actually Vimalakirti, a statue of Vimalakirti in Japan. Hopefully on our pilgrimage to Japan we'll get to see him. But he's a very remarkable figure, and the sutra is quite science fiction-y and quite funny as well. Very rare treat in religious texts. So we'll be looking at Vimalakirti in our non-residential session, and then we'll look at the sutra in the weeks that follow after and between that and the Jataka session in Vermont, and probably for a bit further on too. So today we'll look at the issue in question: are Bodhisattvas really real? We've been talking about the Bodhisattva and all these Jataka tales, on and on and on. So let's take a look at Bodhisattva itself. Buddhism speaks of Bodhisattvas, or wisdom beings. That's quite literal. In Sanskrit, Bodhi means wisdom, and Sattva means being. These are said to be the countless spiritually maturing beings throughout the universe, dedicated to the path of dropping self-centeredness and ultimately unreal position vis-a-vis, I've never known how to pronounce that, the universe, and attaining the way of truthful and so wise and compassionate being and doing. The Buddha in the Jataka tales is always the Bodhisattva, and that's capitalized when it's him because it's the Jatakas reveal his personal path of inner evolution to the complete realization of innate Buddhahood. Still, where's he going? An advanced Bodhisattva might have challenged him about his progressive path of evolving practice. Mara, the tempter or distractor, indeed all Maras throughout the endless universe may really, as the Vimalakirti Sutra states, be advanced Bodhisattvas whose very job it is to test less mature Bodhisattvas. So, not enough, they proclaim. Not enough yet, keep going. And at the same time they add just this, right now. Just this. Do you see it? Then with the black piercing eyes of a devil, they watch younger bodhisattvas squirm as they try to grasp this dual truth. Tricky, those Maras. But where was Mara with the Buddha to be? Why didn't he appear and test him, asking, hold on, where are you hurrying off to life after Jataka life? Where do you think you're going, and what do you think you're going to get that you don't already have? Dogen raises this point in his Shobogenzo section 6, titled, This Very Mind is Buddha. In it he insists that this very mind, right now, not thousands of lives in the future, is Shakyamuni Buddha. At the same time, Dogen, good Mara that he is to us lesser bodhisattvas, won't let us escape into such lazy views as, so all my thoughts, delusions, etc. are it. I don't have to do a thing. I'm a Buddha. As Zen students, we will be challenged on this point of where we are going early on in our koan curriculum, when we take up the koan of Baichang's, that is Yakujo's fox, the second koan of the Womenkon or Mumenkon's Gateless Barrier koan collection. But it's such a central issue, we face it again and again over the course of our entire 600-plus koan path. You'd think Mara could have made good use of this during the Buddha-to-be's countless Jataka lives. Why didn't he? Was he off somewhere harassing other novice bodhisattvas? Was he nervous at the thought of challenging such a determined bodhisattva, the one who in our world age would sit beneath the Bo tree? Was Mara busy preparing for that coming confrontation? He had a lot to do. Need to work on his breathing and yoga postures, hold tryouts and select his company of demons and daughters, hand out scripts, make sure everyone knew his or her part, not to mention dealing with issues of makeup, lighting, and costume. Mara would need vacations, too, if he was going to get it done, and still have the strength to present his own part with conviction. In that final confrontation, he's going to have to act up a storm, literally. Well, that's Mara. Never there when you want him, and always, always there messing with your practice when you don't. When the Buddha about to be is finally challenged by Mara under the Bo tree, he's ready and can already see what's coming. And he gets to that central point of mind itself first. He heads Mara off at the pass, and with one simple move ends the whole show. He simply touches the earth. That's it. And it's done. Here. Right now. Right here. And this is it. Just this. Nonetheless, there are stages, and Jataka tales are the record of one particular bodhisattva's, our own Shakyamuni Buddha's, formidable exertions on the endless path of compassionate and skillfully evolving practice. They show him working through numberless human, non-human, superhuman lives towards the complete actualization of our own vast and mysterious potential, the potential of mind itself, and so of all beings, to realize self-nature and attain the way. According to Mahayana Buddhist tradition, this profound and selfless wisdom is intrinsic to every atom, bug, rock, tree, star, animal, and person. It is the unlimited potential for wisdom and compassion of our own mind and the mind of all beings. It is already here now and has been so from the very beginning. Beginning of what? Matter? The universe? Life? As Hakuin points out in his Zazen Wasan, song in praise of Zazen, from the very beginning, all beings are Buddha. Yet as Zen tradition makes clear, and as Dogen takes pains to point out again and again, unless we do the work, actually practice its realization, it remains unconscious to us, even as it underlies all we think, feel, sense, and do. It stays asleep, remaining only as our potential, there, but not yet awake and functioning. So there are stages. So-called sudden enlightenment happens slowly over time, and at the same time the eye of gradually evolving practice strikes like a thunderbolt. How to wake it up, and wake up to it, is our daily challenge. Dogen, in the superb yet brief section of Shobogenzo titled Genjo Koan, or Actualizing the Fundamental Point, writes, "Do not suppose that what you realize becomes your knowledge and is grasped by your consciousness. Although actualized immediately, the inconceivable may not be apparent. Its appearance is beyond your knowledge." Zen Master Bauch of Mount Mayu was fanning himself. A monk approached and said, "Master, the nature of wind is permanent, and there is no place it does not reach. Why then do you fan yourself?" "Although you understand that the nature of the wind is permanent," Bauch replied, "you do not understand the meaning of its reaching everywhere." "What is the meaning of its reaching everywhere?" asked the monk again. The master just kept fanning himself. The monk bowed deeply. Dogen goes on to say the actualization of the Buddha Dharma, the vital path of its correct transmission, is like this. If you say that you do not need to fan yourself because the nature of wind is permanent and you can have wind without fanning, you will understand neither permanence nor the nature of wind. The nature of wind is permanent. Because of that, the wind of the Buddha's house brings gold for the the wind of the Buddha's house brings the gold of the earth and makes fragrant the cream of the long river. And this was written in mid-autumn, 1233. Long time ago, before Columbus discovered America. Revised in the fourth year, 1252, by its author, Dogen Zenji. So, through the work of spiritual practice, or a Zen practice, we can do just that. Wake up to it. The Jataka tales reveal that animals can manifest clear thought and kind deeds, and if not experience awakening, they can be bodhisattvas. Dogs will run through flames to save human friends. Dolphins will push drowning swimmers to shore and drive off sharks that are circling a surfer. In the Jatakas, a little parrot saves a burning forest, and a deer saves all the animals from hunters. The more we learn of animals, the more astonishing their behaviors, their intelligence, and empathy appears. It is humbling and astonishing to realize how similar our modern sense of animal intelligence and personality is to the way animals are presented in the 2,500-year-old Jataka tales. Western science is catching up to where Buddhism begins. Being on the path, practicing meditation, and committing ourselves to an ethical life is to be a beginner bodhisattva, not a mahasattva, that is a greatly, maha means great, greatly realized, greatly functioning bodhisattva. Non-dual Buddha wisdom and compassion, the foundations of bodhisattva life, are actualized by Zazen, Teisho, Doksan, Zazen Kai, and Sesshin. We take and renew bodhisattva vows at the end of every period of formal Zazen, both to remind ourselves of our own deepest purpose, as well as to renew our commitment to waking up, dropping attachments to egotism, and by being less self-involved, better able to benefit others. The four vows, or great vows for all, as they're also known, are the central vows of bodhisattva aspiration in Zen. As such, they map the complete process of our path. They clarify that our determination is to save all suffering beings, not just human beings. Why? All beings not only have, but are Buddha nature, self-nature, which is our own nature. So animals, trees, rivers, insects, all partake of our vow. Buddhism is not merely human-centered. This is not only kindness, but wisdom. Without insects, there's no pollination. Without pollination, plant life withers, and we all die. Without healthy rivers, we're up the creek, and so on. We save each other. The vow is mutual. Second, we understand that we can only accomplish the realization of this initial vow from our own side, the side of being responsible to our own practice, by not habitually attaching to the greed, hatred, ignorance, and self-centeredness that arise within our own minds. That is, by learning to cease identifying with all such self-centered arisings as being a solid, enduring, separate self. It is to learn to see the inner self itself as provisional, a necessarily useful tool, but not an absolute reality. As we free ourselves from this delusive concept of separateness, we gain intimacy with all things. As we free ourselves, we also free others and our planet and world from the damaging effects of our own wrong thinking. Saving others starts in small ways and with an ongoing effort to see through a habitual sense of separation. As we free ourselves, we project less unconscious stuff onto others and so are freer to stop carelessly harming them. Thirdly, we vow to see all circumstances of our life as Dharma gates, opportunities through which we can touch the vast mind ground of our own real nature. Fourth, we vow to embody the way of the Buddha, that is, to follow the selfless path, whatever we want to call it, that leads to the fulfillment of endless possibilities and the potential of our own human hearts and minds. Zen teaching makes it clear that if we mean to fulfill our deepest goals as human beings and realize our vows of awakened life, it will take effort and perseverance. We will have to do the work. The Zen master sat still and kept fanning himself, though the nature of the wind was permanent. We will have to do the work. We will have to practice. The good news is that with dedication and growing determination, lofty goals can, to one degree or another, be realized. Self-centeredness, the false, separated, and habitually dualistic sense of ourselves is a sickness that can be healed. Our original nature and the nature of all beings can be brought into consciousness. Let's see, koan number, I think it's 86 in the Hekigan Roku. Yunmen says, how does it go? Yunmen says, everything is medicine. Everything is medicine for our sickness. All things are medicine. What is the self? What is the self? That's not exact. I don't remember the case exactly, but that's the point. Our original nature and the nature of all beings can be brought into consciousness. Everything can be medicine for our sickness. What is the self? This foundation experience of profoundly selfless intimacy, kensho in Japanese, or seeing self-nature, is the beginning of an endless path of ongoing practice realization. In time, our determined efforts to keep at it give way to a more relaxed, less self-willed practice. We may guide, balance, and steer, but are no longer bent over the bars, red-faced, gasping for breath, pedaling uphill for all we're worth. Classical Buddhist texts say that there are 50 stages to a bodhisattva's evolution. There might as well be 1,000,000. Our job, regardless of numbers, is to begin anew with each round of zazen, each breath. Our job, simply put, is to practice now and touch the ground right where we are. It's said in Buddhist tradition that advanced bodhisattva mahasattvas, or great beings, those who are far ahead of us on the path and have been doing this work for countless lifetimes, are now so skillful they can appear in any form to bring aid where and whenever needed. One such great wisdom being is Manjushri, Bodhisattva of Prajna, or non-dual wisdom. He sits in the Zendo with us and shows the way of practice realization by swinging the keen sword of full attention that cuts through all delusions, especially through the core delusion of me in here and everyone else out, everything else out there. Where is that? Hold on 1 second. Okay. Sorry, editing on the fly as we go. From his left shoulder rises the lotus of fulfilled mind, on which rests the book or scroll of Prajna, Paramita, perfect wisdom. When Manjushri's delusion-cutting sword swings, the selfless, non-dual wisdom that has always been here is revealed. This sword kills even as it gives life, killing self-centered delusion reveals and gives life to selfless wisdom. Sometimes Manjushri gives up his sword and sits at ease on a lion. The lion is a living sword. Its thunderous roar wipes the mind clear and kills delusions. Its nobility and vitality overcome self-centered opposition. Manjushri has been at it so long he was teacher, it said, to the last 7 Buddhas. Long ago he was already a Buddha, but gave it up to actively lend a hand to beginners like us and help all beings enter the way. I think for him it was more fun to do that. He said, let me go back into the muck and have some fun, see what I can do to be of use. Avalokiteshvara is another central Bodhisattva Mahasattva. He or she is known as Kuan Yin in Japan, Kannon in Japan, Kuan Yin in China, Kannon in Japan, Chen Rezik in Tibet. Her aim in all her various forms is to embody pure compassion and save all beings from various and countless sufferings. Sometimes he or she is shown with 1,000 hands, able to reach into any realm and bring exactly the right kind of aid. This is an astonishingly tactile image of the mind and aspiration of a bodhisattva. Avalokiteshvara gained this power, the Sarangama Sutra reveals, ages ago when practicing under the guidance of the Buddha Avalokiteshvara. He focused on the inquiry, who is hearing sounds? Eventually, with liberation, Avalokiteshvara became the one who hears the cries of the world, the greatly compassionate one. For Zen students, Samantabhadra, Bodhisattva of compassionate action, would be another exemplar of the path. Mounted on an elephant, he makes his unstoppable way through the twists and turns of daily life, bringing the light of compassionate action into every dark corner. In some Zendos, the 2 central bodhisattvas are Manjushri on the lion and Samantabhadra or Fugen, as he is known in Japan, on his elephant. I say his only provisionally. There is a Japanese Buddhist legend drawn from a sutra and turned into a folkloric story of Fugen taking the form of a dancing girl or courtesan to awaken men from the limitation of lust. So Bodhisattva Mahasattvas are not limited by gender. Advanced bodhisattvas can appear, it is said, not simply as I've described them, but in whatever form might be needed to do whatever might be of the greatest aid in any situation. It is their art form, their play, to come forth and lend a hand. Enin, a Japanese Buddhist monk traveling in Tong-era, China, reported that when he went to Mount Wutai, sacred to the Bodhisattva Manjushri, he found that pilgrims there were kind to even the lowliest animals. They'd see a donkey and whisper, "That could be Manjushri. He might have taken this form." And so they would treat it with the utmost respect and reverence just in case. In this way, whether they realized it or not, they brought the real Manjushri of their own minds forth. Wisdom is exactly compassion. Advanced bodhisattvas, a Buddhist tradition says, are also so free that their help might not even look like help to our not so enlightened eyes. So that winter storm that grounds our plane and upsets our plans could be a bodhisattva doing his or her job. Perhaps the delay saves us from who knows what. Or a bodhisattva could be the one dialing that ringing phone, which when we pick it up, has no one on the line. Here's a true story. A young woman with a child on her hip stepped from the kitchen into the living room to answer the phone. "Hello?" she said. But there was no one on the line. Then boom! The pressure cooker on the stove hadn't been properly closed, and with a great pent-up force, the lid exploded to the ceiling, spraying the room with boiling sauce. She and the child were saved from injury or death. The wrong number phone call bodhisattva had dialed her up just in time. So too, the driver who cuts us off on the highway, making us swerve into another lane, or causing us to speed up or slow down or even miss our exit, could be a bodhisattva saving our lives. Really, who knows? Such things happen. Do we know what they portend? Can we? It's not crucial to know. Nor can we depend on miraculous salvations. It would be silly to go around claiming, oh, that rude person was a bodhisattva, or, oh, that bee sting that put me in the hospital was really a bodhisattva in disguise. It's not an article of belief we need to cling to. Roshi Kapleau used to say that all we really need to know to practice Zen is the recognition that impermanence is real. Impermanence is real, and not simply a statement in a Buddhist book. And that Shakyamuni didn't lie and wasn't a fool when after 6 years of dedicated effort he exclaimed, "Wonder of wonders. All beings are Buddhas, fully endowed with wisdom and compassion." If he wasn't a fool and he wasn't lying, what then did he mean? If he wasn't a fool or a liar, then we need to, indeed we will, ask ourselves, if I'm a Buddha, then where is my wisdom, my Buddha nature, my compassion? Why don't I see it, feel it, know it? Why don't I live from it, abide in it? And then we must ask after that, what can I do to bring about a realization of this and experience in my own small way what the Buddha experienced 2,500 years ago when he sat beneath the bo tree? That's it. That's all we need to feel and think. That's the grit under the shell that can produce our pearl, stripping away the film that covers our hearts and prevents us from realizing the non-dual prajna wisdom/compassion that has been ours from the start, as Hakuin said. No matter how raw, deluded, and unskillful we might be in recognizing it and using it, it's here. It's not something we need to go to a monastery to get. It's here, if we awake to it and let it function in our lives. And it will, if we practice steadily. But self-willed or self-directed practice is not enough. A teacher is important. We all need someone who can check our practice and nudge us in the direction of greater depth. For ultimately to know where bodhisattvas are, we need to know where we ourselves are. What is this self? Where is this self? Can we find it? Where is it located? We may point to our heads or hearts and say, within. But where is that? Is that self within, male, female, old, young, wise, or foolish? Looking into this is where freedom from our mind's anxiety, unease, and distress actually lies. When Wei Ke, the second ancestor of Zen in China, stood in the snow before Bodhidharma, begging for help in gaining peace of mind, Bodhidharma didn't point to a text for Wei Ke to read. He didn't say, "Don't worry, it'll be all right. You have this nature. Be at peace, my son." Instead, like the good thief that he was, he skillfully got his student to take the baited hook and really look. In his statement to Wei Ke, "Bring me your mind and I'll pacify it for you," he took everything away. And when all preconceptions, all illusions are gone, something beyond dreams has a chance to appear. Bodhidharma's bodhisattva work was to point to truth. In the extremity of darkness that this can lead to at road's end, a light shines. Wei Ke is not alone. Eventually we all walk the road seeking peace. Eventually, we all come face to face with the questions. Where is my mind? What is my mind? Who am I? Why was I born? Why am I here? Why must I die? If we are honest, we admit that we don't know. We think we know so much. We have so many fixed views and beliefs. This is true. This isn't true. This is a fact. This isn't a fact. Science has proved this, but it hasn't proved that. Bodhidharma was a snaggle-toothed, shaven-headed old guy who lived 1,500 years ago in China and brought Zen practice, a teaching not bound by any particular text and not limited to words, from India. Bodhidharma was really the Bodhisattva, Avalokiteshvara, or he wasn't. I have a soul. I don't have a soul. And all the while, as you go on and on, round and round, what we don't know is who or what we are. We don't know the source of our own nature. Are there really bodhisattvas who can take any form and appear in any guise in order to help others, beings whose whole purpose and whole joy is to help as naturally as you and I might reach back for a pillow in the night? No big deal. Totally ordinary and natural. Hopefully, there are. We need help. Good people suffer all the time on this Saha, or tolerable planet, this Middle Earth between heaven and hell. Kobayashi Isa's famous haiku, written after the death of his little daughter, goes, "This dewdrop world is just a dewdrop world. And yet, ours is a dewdrop world, fragile and temporary, at any moment about to fall from its cosmic grass blade, and yet, it can stun with the solidity and force of a sledgehammer wielded by a maniac. The sorrow on earth can be overwhelming and unrelenting. Nor does this belief that bodhisattvas are everywhere and can take any form mean that every awful thing is bodhisattvic in intent, the work of a hidden bodhisattva, trying to bring us further along the path. There are tragedies we can never explain or understand that we demean by such careless thinking. There are killing fields and holocausts, earthquakes, collapsing bridges, sinking ships. Let's not attempt to escape the pain of not knowing. Why terrible things happen by slipping on rose-colored glasses. Clinging to beliefs can distort our ability to see. There is a Zen saying, even gold dust in the eyes can blind. There is something better than the gold of lofty and subtle belief, and that is awareness of what is. It is genuine seeing, genuine intimacy. It goes farther and deeper than we think. What really is? Zazen is our way of exploring this. It's not simply a way of calming ourselves or affirming belief in a kindly universe, as helpful as such things might be. When we are filled with anxiety, then peace is important, and mindfulness a good place to start. But peace is a foundation for something more, looking clearly, or even taking a leap. In the hungry tigress Jataka, it is the precondition for stepping off a cliff into what is beyond anything we ordinarily conceive of as kindness or compassion. The Buddha to one day be gives his body as food to a starving tigress and her cubs. When belief in dogma outweighs attention to what is, we fall into danger. Believing in bodhisattvas is not the issue. We needn't go looking for bodhisattvas, and we don't need to build a belief system on them. That's not our task. In some ways, it is the opposite of our task, which is to discover who bodhisattvas are by knowing who we are or are not. At the same time, all around us, strange things happen we can't explain, things that suggest there may be more in heaven and earth than we dream of. As Blake says, who knows, but every bird that cuts the airy way is an immense world of delight closed by our senses five. In the Jataka tales, the Buddha is a hard-working bodhisattva striving towards Buddhahood. As such, he can be a dog, a crow, an elephant, a deer, a monkey, a lion, a peacock, a vulture, an ox, an untouchable, an acrobat, a sage, a robber, a teacher, a king, a god, a child, a businessman, a parent. In each form, whatever he is, he learns to evolve further. Buddhist tradition says that there are bodhisattvas ready to help in every patch of sunlight and shadow. There are invisible bodhi beings, wisdom beings in non-physical realms, mahasattvas dedicated to guiding those who die and must for a time tread the paths of Bardo. It is a profound vision of a moral and compassionate universe. Ancient sutras even say that in our own troubled time, bodhisattvas will be called forth by our difficulties to spring up out of the earth, rising from the ground beneath our feet. If there are bodhisattva mahasattvas developing now, one implication is that there are also jatakas taking place in our time, jatakas of Buddhas yet to be. Stories of dogs putting themselves in danger to save humans, of firefighters risking their lives to carry kittens out of burning houses, of people giving away things they hold dear to help others might give us clues as to what that might look like, as do the life stories of such people as Martin Luther King Jr., Nelson Mandela, and the Dalai Lama, though their fame would have little to do with it. But are bodhisattvas really real? Back in 1970, when Rose was pregnant with our son Jacob, we were living in an old farmhouse in backwoods Pennsylvania, south of Binghamton. One day we drove into town. Rose had a dentist appointment, and while she was busy, I took off on our old VW bus to handle errands. I chanced on a gas station where sat two old gents in overalls. They also sold used cars. As I gassed up, we talked. I mentioned the upcoming birth. They looked at me. Then they looked at the VW, an old, unpadded, uninsulated, rattling, bare metal cargo plane of a van. "You have a child coming?" they mused. In their voices I now heard echo of foghorn leghorn. "Son?" I say, "Son?" For, "Well now," they said, "why don't you take a look at this GMC truck? Step right over here." It was blue, solid, gleaming. Everything about it, from the massive emergency brake to the rows of thickly padded removable bench seats, proclaimed industrial strength. "Take a drive," they said. I got in and drove away. Such a smooth, solid ride. I had visions of plowing with ease up the hill to the old farmhouse through deep winter snows, or risky, bouncing pedal-to-the-metal feet in our bus. I had visions of nomadic family security. "How much?" I asked, heart in my mouth when I returned, flushed with truck power, with dreams and new hope. They named a ridiculously low sum plus the wretched old bus. We shook hands all around. It was a bargain. I picked up Rose, spilled the good news, and we headed happily home. I drove back the next day, check in my shirt pocket. About 5 blocks from their gas station car lot, there was a sudden loud bang. It came from the engine in the rear. The old VW staggered as if shot, then kept on rolling. Though now in a halting, shuddering, groaning, wheezing sort of way. We limped up to the pump. I stopped and mercifully killed the engine, which gave out a final, long, drawn-out, lamenting gasp before it died. Except for the ticking of overheated metal, there was only silence, an awful silence. I sat on the peeling leather seat waiting for the smoke to clear. From the haze of my mind rose a helpless, anguished refrain. Up the creek, without a paddle, no truck, not even the old van now. Cash low, baby coming. The 2 elderly gents had watched my stricken, labored approach. They rose from their chairs and stepped forward. "Well," they said, You brought the bus. Do you have the check? Yes, yes, I do. You'll still take it? I asked, incredulous. A deal's a deal, they answered. You don't want more money? I asked, in a daze. Nope, said the Bodhisattvas. Feverishly, I pulled the crumpled check from my pocket, signed it, and handed it over before they could change their minds. We finished up the paperwork and again shook hands all around. Then I drove off in that heavenly blue, the color of Bodhisattva Guru Buddha, the Buddha of healing, Yakushi in Japanese, that blue GMC truck, which not long after I drove serenely and safely and reliably down twisting mountain roads in a heavy fog in the middle of the night, so Jake could be born with one push in the local hospital of Susquehanna, Pennsylvania. 8 weeks after that, we loaded all our possessions into our big blue truck and moved to Rochester. The truck was later named the Rafe Mobile by the Zen Center, which acquired it from us a year later. They got many further years of sturdy yeoman service from it. It ran and ran as if it possessed a good stout heart under its huge blue hood, and not the mere mechanical assemblage of an engine. It ran as if blessed. Thinking back, I've sometimes wondered what I'd have found if I'd gone back to that used car lot and gas station. An empty field, wind rippling through long grasses, no cars, flags, banners, pumps, no old gents in overalls. Maybe all gone, entirely gone, as the Prajna Paramita Sutra says. Vast emptiness, yet like mind itself filled with endless potential. Are bodhisattvas really real? At an appropriate point in our practice, a teacher may ask, tell me, what is the age of Kannon? Or he or she may challenge us with the question, where does Manjushri, Bodhisattva of wisdom, live? As we continue with our practice, we may come to know answers that surprise and delight us. At the same time, we are reminded of how much work we have yet to do, how far there is to go. Gratefully, we accept the challenge. This is our work. Great bodhisattvas may be all around us. Regardless, our job remains to uphold our own bodhisattva vows, minor as they may presently be, and each day get up and do our best to make them that much more real. This is springing up out of muddy soil. This is using 1,000 hands. This is life practice, walking out of the Zendo and onto an endless path.